Hello and welcome to Euphoria. In this video I'll be looking at the build phase for my current MOC. I'm creating a building for my Lego city. It's an old astronomical clock that sits in the centre of the town and is a historical landmark and tourist attraction. In this video I'll finally build the model from actual Lego. In previous videos in this series, we completed the design for this MOC, and I showed you one of the prototype builds that I made to try things out. It's a modular building representing an old astronomical clock tower. It's built onto a standard 32 by 32 base plate and follows the modular building standards. It's a corner building, which is a kind of T-shape. It's built over 3 stories that will be separable in modular style. It has an astronomical clock at the front and a fountain at the side. Inside the building are the clock mechanisms, a museum and a small museum shop. I'm going to build this model in 3 stages, each stage being one of the levels of the building. So starting with the ground floor, this has the entrance at the front, a tower on the corner and a fountain at the side of the building. There's also a rear entrance at the back. Inside the ground floor is the entrance hallway, a drinking fountain where you can sample the spring water, and a small museum shop. The next level is accessed via a stone staircase. This level contains the main astronomical clock with its large external face showing the positions of the Sun, Moon and planets. Inside the building is the clock mechanism, the timekeeper's office and a museum. There's a narrow wooden staircase to the top level with its low walls and cross-gable roof. Here is the upper clock face and another clock mechanism. The top level also contains another part of the museum. I've developed the design for this MOC through a number of design stages, and I've also completed all the preparations for the build. All the videos describing the development of the concept and design for this MOC are available on this channel. Check them out if you're interested. There's a link in the card above and in the description below. Now we're in the build phase for this MOC. Before starting the build, I had to procure all the parts I need and prepare for the build itself. So now that's all done, I can finally build the model physically. I call this the B phase of the build process. Here are all the parts sorted into their different shapes, sizes and colours, ready for the build. There's about 2,200 parts needed for this MOC. So first I'll do the ground floor. So I'm going to build this model from the ground up, as it were, and I'll start with a 32 by 32 grey base plate. So onto that I'll put the tiling for the exterior paving using dark bluish grey tiles, and the interior floor of the building using mostly light bluish grey tiles with some decorative elements in the floor as well. And then I can start adding the foundations for the building, which has been built on a kind of rocky outcrop, so some of these dark slopes represent the rocks on which the building was built. As the walls go up, I can add the back door and the front door. There we get the internal drinking fountain, looking rather nice now. and here I can add the contents of the small museum shop, which include gifts and souvenirs of your visit. So with the interior done, I can complete building the walls. And then add the exterior details, including this plant growing up the outside of the building. So that's the ground floor section of this building completed. If you want to see more about this part of the build, I've done a separate video which describes this part of the build in more detail. So now I can move on to building the first floor of the building. I'll start by building the floor plate, which needs to be the right size and shape to fit onto the ground floor of the building and to support the walls and other elements of this level of the building. Once I've built the floor plate, I can check that it fits onto the ground floor walls properly all the way around. So now that's okay, I can start building the walls of this level of the building. Inside this level of the building is the clock mechanism for the main astronomical clock. I've made this from a number of Technic pieces and gears, and when it's placed in position it will support the clock face on the outside of the building. The clock mechanism is protected by this kind of cage which has a door so that the timekeeper can get in for maintenance. Here I'm making the furniture and adding the other interior details for the timekeeper's office on this level, and display cases and display boards for the museum about timekeeping. So now I can complete building the walls, including the narrow wooden staircase that takes you up to the top level of the tower. Now I can build the clock face for the main astronomical clock and add it to the outside of the building. And add the remaining exterior details, such as the downpipes and the plant growing up the side of the building. So that's the second section of this modular build completed. If you want to see more about this part of the build, I've done a separate video which describes this part of the build in more detail. So now I can move on to building the second floor, which is the top floor of this building. Again, I'll start by building the floor plate for this level of the building. This is a slightly different size from the one below because of the overhang built into the first floor of the building. Once I've built the floor plate, I can check it fits on correctly and start building the walls for this level of the building. The walls themselves aren't very high on this level because most of this level is built into the roof, but I do need to build up the gables of the building that will support the roof. So now I can build the mechanism for the upper clock, which sits inside this level of the building, and add the exterior clock face. I'm going to add some interior details to this level of the building, including some furniture and an astrolabe which will go in the top level of the tower at the corner of the building. So now I can start building the roof. It's quite a complicated roof structure with a cross gable shape, and the roof is made out of panels, some of which hang down from the main beams and other panels clip onto the top of the walls and fold into position. But it works pretty well and looks very good when it's finished. And now I can finish off the building with the finials on the top of the roofs. Then finally I can put the top floor of the building onto the other two floors to complete the assembly of my MOC. So that's the end of this part of the build. If you want to see more about this part of the build, I've done a separate video which describes this part in more detail. So that's the build of this model completed. So I'm going to add a few minifigures to this building just to bring it to life. There's a couple of guys that work at the museum, and of course there are some tourists coming to visit the museum and take some pictures of the building itself. I hope you enjoyed seeing the build of this MOC. It went pretty well because I was able to follow the design. All the parts fitted together as planned, and the model looks exactly how I envisaged it. If you want to see more details of the build, see the links in the description which take you to separate videos showing the build of each level of the MOC. Thanks for watching. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. So please hit the like button if you liked this video, and subscribe to this channel if you want to see more videos about LEGO modular buildings.